Already we're against someone called Double D Cheesecake.
Alright, what's going on, guys? This is Restless Corpse from VirtualBromance. I'm here with Stephen Pastic, who is one of our bros from Australia. And we're playing Modern Warfare 3 on day 8 of my 365-day challenge. And I brought Stephen in because we're going to have a little conversation about, I guess, our differing viewpoints of first-person versus third-person games. So, you know, go ahead and let everybody know you're real, bro.
Hello, everyone. Stephen Pastic. With this whole... oh, shit, dead already. That's awesome. With this whole... we had the idea of talking about preferences for, yeah, as you said, first or third-person titles. And I myself tend to fall into the third-person category. Not to take anything away from good first-person games, but I don't know, there's something about seeing my character and seeing the animations of them walking and jumping and stuff like that. Things which don't really feel quite right, even in the best first-person games, at least to me.
And, you know, I tend to kind of... I haven't fucking found anybody yet at all. I've seen nothing but... and now I'm getting shot. For the most part, I kind of agree. One of the most important things in games for me, and I say this when I play a lot of MMOs, 90% of what makes a game awesome is if your character looks awesome. So, for the most part, I agree with you with the being able to see your character. And one of the things that John and I like to do when we're playing, especially Call of Duty games, is do a mustache check. So we'll run to
I'm familiar with this term.
we'll find each other in the game, and we'll be like, all right, dude, do I have a sweet mustache? And he'll take a look, and he'll be like, yeah, you got a pretty wicked mustache. So you kind of, with a third-person game, you can check yourself, which is cool, I suppose, but it gets rid of the whole like funny aspect of it, I guess. But when it comes to first-person versus third-person, like I said, it's really important for your character to look cool, and you can't really tell in a first-person game. And sometimes, like, especially if it's not a multiplayer game, making yourself look cool doesn't really fucking matter because nobody's going to see it. But we still do it.
Exactly.
So when it comes to games like Fallout and Skyrim and shit like that, even though the third-person mechanic for those games is really horrible, we tend to play a little bit in third-person just so we can see our characters. But, like, I have issues with third-person and, like, aiming and things. And there's a lot of games where in third-person the aiming's off a little bit. But there are some games where it's third-person, but if you go in, you aim down the sights, it'll give you a first-person thing, which I think is cool. But... For me,
I'd agree with that.
For me, first-person games just give me a little bit more like control. If it's an FPS, anyway. If it's a game like Skyrim, it doesn't really matter. You're gonna hit the guy if you're in front of him, regardless. But
exactly.
I grew up with a few different like styles of games. When I was really young, I played a lot of flight simulators. On like the Genesis, I played Flight of the Intruder and stuff like that, which. Nobody ever really cites as a good game that's a movie license, but Flight of the Intruder is actually pretty damn good.
I've never even heard that title.
I'm getting my shit pushed in here, but and
dude, I'm
before we continue,
on 9 deaths, no kills.
Yeah, I want to let everybody know that we haven't played this game in for fucking ever. I think I'm about to get fucking Predator missile, but so. When it comes to, especially military shooters, I tend to go for the first-person shooters more than the third. And when it comes to an MMO, if an MMO is a first-person, then I'm really excited about it, which doesn't happen often. Oh, dude, hold on, turn around for a second.
Mustache check.
You do not have a mustache. Oh, you do? Oh, shit. Yeah, that happens a lot. You do have a sweet mustache, and that's important.
I do. I couldn't make out whether your dude had a mustache or not because you were in the perfect spot for shadows.
Yeah. And that's one of the things with like Call of Duty Ghosts that was announced, where you can customize your character, and that's really going to kill the mustache checks because we're already going to know we have a mustache because we set it up that way. Holy shit! Fuck.
That's true, but you could elect to alter the character between rounds and have it as kind of a surprise.
Well, right, but that would be a surprise for like John, whereas I would know I have a mustache unless it was a randomized thing, which would be pretty cool. But anyway, back to the topic. Like, when it comes to when it comes to like whether or not you're going to get a game, does the first person and third person have anything to do with it?
Typically not. I'm actually glad you brought up Fallout before, because that would be a rare exception in my case where I'd lean the other way, because it is so obvious that it's designed to be played in first person. The third person mechanics look ridiculous.
Yeah.
Looking at yourself walking, it's like watching Michael Jackson moonwalk around an environment. It doesn't look right.
Speaking of Moonwalker, the arcade game, one of the greatest arcade games ever made. I want to point that out.
I'm not proud of the fact that I've finished that.
Yeah. For me, like I said, if it's a multiplayer or like a military shooter, and it's not first person, I generally don't want to play it. I mean, I'll play the single player or whatever, but online, I think that... Oh, hold on. I got it. All right. I think that it reduces the aim. It reduces, like... I guess that it reduces the aim, but it gives you a lot more situational awareness, which I think is cool. Like, John and I and Gemma were playing Borderlands last night, and like I said something. I ran into a whole bunch of enemies, and John ran off to do something. And I was like, "Oh, bro, you left me here to do this stuff by myself." And Gemma was like, "You're not by yourself." It's like, so it turned into the theme of the night. The theme of the night was, it's a first-person game. If you're behind me, I can't see you. And it's just, stuff like that. But, I mean, again, maybe
I would also concede that you also have a point as far as the military shooters go, where aiming is so paramount. In those cases, I would tend to agree. But just otherwise, all else being equal... I don't know. There's just, even among the best FPS games, it's more so the basic movement. As they've gotten a lot better with time, but like, I'm jumping right now, and that doesn't feel right.
Well, also in the Call of Duty games, you can't really jump all that high, so that kind of bothers me. But I like it in that it doesn't turn into like a Halo game where everybody's jumping and it kind of ruins your tactics.
Got more hang time than Michael Jordan.
In fact, we generally call it like Halo jumping when somebody jumps around a corner and fucking kills you. Oh, that's great. That was the last death there.
But one thing that really does shit me is the idea that even the host of our show, Luke, has been guilty of this a few times. The whole idea of equating Call of Duty to being shit, to which, look, I don't think it's the best thing on the planet, but it sells for a reason.
Right.
And there is also a reason why so many other games have adopted its systems.
Right. Such as Crisis. Crisis 2 and Crisis 3 were very Call of Duty-esque, if you played those.
As I'm sure you can relate to as well, Dave, being a musician too, it reminds me of the people who love a band until they get
popular,
too big for their own pocket.
Yeah.
And they love it until it's popular.
And I actually know exactly what you're talking about with that, because I see that in a lot of my friends where they'll hate a game just because everybody else loves them.
Get back here.
You have a mask on. Wait, you've
got a sweet mustache going on.
You have you've got some stubble stash going on. So we're stubble stash warriors. That's good.
Nice form.
But what, like I was saying, we have a lot of friends who like won't like a game just because it's popular. Um, like Halo, for example. I am a Halo fan. I just don't like playing on multiplayer. But the story is great, or at least it used to be. I know it's getting kind of convoluted now. Um, but they'll be like, Halo sucks, and you ask them why, and they can't give you a reason why, and it's just because it's popular and everybody else likes it, so they want to go against the grain. And individuality is great, but not when it keeps you from enjoying something that's actually enjoyable. You know what I mean?
Exactly. When individuality becomes like a badge of honor in the face of no matter what, then it's a problem.
Right.
Like, as you said, people that will often say things like, oh, game XYZ sucks, and then you'll ask them to give an opinion as to why. If they're talking about gameplay systems they don't like, I'll go, okay, I might disagree, but you've got a respectable opinion. The minute someone says, oh, it's so popular, or oh, it's just the same game over again, I immediately stop listening to them.
Oh, I'm going to fuck your shit up.
Does not have a brain.
Right. God damn it, I lost that guy.
Games by design, I mean, we're all familiar, like, it's very rare that something will do something unique.
Well, nowadays, yeah.
Spot, yeah. Lots of games share some common DNA, and it's just the way things are. If successful gameplay systems get adapted and put into other titles.
And
it's just bizarre watching how the criteria under which people decide what's good and what's bad.
Well, and it seems like you need to go into the indie game sector to find anything new and innovative nowadays. Because if it's a AAA title and it's not like all the other AAA titles like it, then people bitch and moan, and it's kind of sad because it makes people not want to innovate,
And I can understand why. I mean, for any of us who have an informed opinion on the games industry, you see studios closing on an almost daily basis now.
Right.
I don't blame them for wanting to chase the safe dollar. This isn't just people who are putting out games or anything. It's also their livelihoods riding on the sales of a product. I can't help but notice that all the people that whinge about stuff like this typically tend not to be developers, which I find funny.
Right.
People who wouldn't have the first clue of how to make a good game themselves, or any kind of game, but yet they're the experts on what's good. Really? Do you expect someone to take your opinion seriously? That is ridiculous.
Yeah, and then there's always people who, will say things like, well, if you don't like it, don't play it, don't play it, or if you don't like it, make yourself a better game. And I can actually see their side of the coin too, because these people are bitching about things and acting like they can make it so much better, but obviously they don't have the training or the resources, but they obviously, and they also don't have ideas to make it better, which really upsets me. And that's just like the Colonial Marines. I mean, it's not a good game by any stretch of the word, but John and I still, we still find a way to enjoy it. And you and I just a second ago were talking about getting into reviewing and things. And you asked, like, have I ever, written anything and sent it off? And the reason I haven't is because I feel like my style of reviewing wouldn't really be conducive to, like, mainstream reviewing, because I don't get into, like, a lot of the specs. I'm not going to be like, well, the pixel count's all crappy and this particular mechanics feels sluggish. I'm going to be like, is the game fun? And if the game's fun, then I'm going to give it a good, at least a decent review, regardless of whether or not the game has, a myriad, just fault after fault after fault. And it might, but in the case of
I'll make you right on all of that, dude. I mean, I think you should do it in exactly the way you're saying, because one thing that shits me, as someone who's been writing reviews for a while now, is that people seem to think that a review implies some kind of objective basis of comparison. The amount of times that I hear people saying subjective in relation to a review as though that's a negative drives me mental. By definition, it is subjective. There is no such thing as an objective product review. It depends on the person who's experienced it and their opinion of it.
Right.
And that is going to vary wildly from person to person.
I also don't like the. I mean, don't get me wrong. Game reviewing is awesome, and I would never want to buy a game that nobody has anything good to say about. But I also don't like it when people will base their opinion off of others' reviews without experiencing the game themselves at least a little bit. At least watch some videos or something, because there's.
Yeah.
And I'm a big follower of like the GameFAQs forums and things like that, and you can just tell when you read it when you go to a new game and read that didn't get like a super great review right off the bat. It just seems like everybody jumps on the bandwagon of a bad review, but nobody jumps on the bandwagon of a good review.
Oh, of course, and I've never understood why people always they cry when a review doesn't match up to their own expectations based on what they've read before. They seem to think that everyone should have the same opinion. If that's the case, what's the fucking point of a review?
Right.
You only need one person to do it if that's the case, and everyone else is irrelevant. That's stupid. The best that can be said, I've always found, is that if you see an overwhelming trend towards either good or bad on any particular title, the best you can say is that chances are you might find yourself having a similar opinion.
Right, exactly. And what's funny about that is the only game that I've ever seen that I could not find a bad review for was XCOM. And I swear to God, I went onto the GameFAQs and I wanted to, I was looking through. I had already bought the game and I'd already played it a little bit, and I was looking through reviews and nobody had a single bad thing to say about it, other than the random number generator is kind of fucked, and it is. I mean, that's a legitimate concern of the game. But I've never ever seen even games that some respected reviewers give a 10 out of 10 of. There's always going to be, half people saying the game sucks and they don't know why it got that. Oh, this reviewer must be getting paid by, so-and-so company.
Oh,
and I don't doubt that maybe happens every once in a while, but I really don't think that of the big reviewers anyway. I could be wrong. You might know a little bit more.
That one always drives me nuts because I could be mistaken. I'll freely concede that, but imagining myself in the position of a publisher and the ludicrous number of review copies they have to send out, there's no way they're paying people off because that would eat up half of their marketing budget.
Right.
On paying the reviewers. The reviews I write are for a shitty little Australian site. It's not even game-centric. But, the idea of a publisher committing funds to trying to sweeten the pot for a review when one review by itself is worthless, especially with things like Metacritic. They collate hundreds of them. What good is paying off one person?
Right. Especially, you're exactly right with Metacritic. I mean, I don't know much about it, but from what I guess, what I understand how that works is they take a bunch of as many reviews as possible and make a number out of them. I don't understand how that works.
Yeah, exactly. Shit, I had a point. Where did it go? Continue. In actual fact, to piggyback off that discussion, one recent title which, and this isn't to say that I disagree with the other reviews or whatever, well, kind of, but not to say that they're wrong by any stretch, but a recent example, The Last of Us. Don't get me wrong, I thought it was a great game, but admittedly my expectations were set ludicrously high given its reception on Metacritic. I cannot recall the last time this generation a game got such overwhelming praise. And for the most part, I thought it was deserving of it, but I certainly couldn't understand the universal 10 out of 10s it got, but, you know, I'm certainly not about to say those people are wrong.
Right.
It's their opinion on a product.
And in the case of that game, I actually really agree with what you're saying there, because I thought the game was great. It's one of the games that, I rented the game, and it's one of those games where after renting it and after beating it twice, I'm probably going to buy it. But I don't know if I would give it a 10. The story and the voice acting were spot on. I really liked the post-apocalyptic setting, but the combat wasn't really anything new, and to tell you the truth, it wasn't even really that great.
I'll back you up. The demo did. The demo that they chose to put up was very smart on their part, because the little bit of combat that was in there, but I think I recall saying on Digital Psychosis Live that after playing the demo, that the combat felt dynamic in a way that I have not seen in any other game since. And while that was true for the experience I had in the demo, it wasn't really replicated in the full game. It was still good and serviceable. It just my peak of enjoyment with moment-to-moment combat definitely came from the demo.
Right. And the combat, because it's a Naughty Dog game, so obviously they're going to use what works. The combat was like a kind of a toned down version of Uncharted. And don't get me wrong, I love Uncharted. But again, the combat is just basic third-person, shooter combat with a cover mechanic. So it wasn't anything to shake a stick at. But the game itself, I thought was great. But I do see what you're saying, where people were giving it 10 out of 10, and I think that they were just, they were giving it a 10 because of some of the things that really worked, but they were overlooking things that really didn't.
Exactly. A classic point that, granted, this isn't the only issue I had with it, but the absolutely laughable amount of times where you wouldn't be able to move Joel quickly, where he'd just slow.
Oh yeah!
Really
oh my God!
Walk for no good reason. That got on my tits so quickly. And it's not like anything was happening in those windows of time.
To be honest, most of the game is like that. And playing it a second time, where you already know the story and you just want to get through it, those were like just. It felt like I was playing the game for hours in one section, which sure extend the life of the game, I suppose, because everybody's going to bitch if it's a 6-hour game, but you can find easier ways to do it, or better ways anyway.
Yeah, that's true. And yeah, as we said, that's not to take anything away from the game. I certainly don't regret the purchase. I loved every second of it, but I think there's this perception that the minute that you have a critique to level at a game, that doesn't mean it's shit. It just means that you feel that this particular element could have been done better. And if we're honest with ourselves, the perfect game does not exist.
Right.
As much as I would like to say that was made in 1994, Super Metroid, the truth is, any game can be improved upon. There are always going to be things which aren't as elegant as they could otherwise be.
Yeah. Speaking of Super Metroid, John and I actually talked about your love of Super Metroid yesterday. I don't remember if it was on the show or if it was before.
Sweet. I'm going to have to watch the second half.
No, actually, it was during our top 5. We were talking about top 5 original themes or songs in a game, and he mentioned I forgot what it was, but it was one of the songs from Super Metroid, and he figured you would totally agree with him.
If I took a punt, would it jog your memory?
Yeah, probably.
Brinstar?
It was Lower something. I don't remember what the hell.
Lower Norfair?
Yeah, there you go. He loves that song. Like he would probably put it in his top 5 of all time games. So yeah, and I agree with him.
I would probably put him in my top 5 people for being right.
Yeah, the as a matter of fact, there were actually quite a few good scores in that one. Considering it was a Super Nintendo game, I mean the music was great.
Oh, exactly. One of my favorite stories about that soundtrack is that, without a shadow of a lie, as an 11-year-old kid, I used to let the game run idle and pull out the cassette recorder and just record the music onto cassette tape. I was that in love with it.
You know, it's funny. I used to do that with Final Fantasy VI. Because Final Fantasy VI just has like almost the entire soundtrack. It's fucking amazing.
I really need to get around to giving that one a crack.
Oh my God! You haven't played Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah. I know, sacrilege.
Hey, you know, you've got the perfect series for it. The why haven't you played this? Or you know, I forget what you exactly call it, but you should throw that in there and just give me a shout out on the show. Because it's such a phenomenal fucking game. I think we should.
I've just got to get Macredible to hurry up and edit the episode that we recorded 2 fucking months ago.
Yeah. And I know you're also a PS3 guy, and you can get Final Fantasy VI on the PSN.
Oh, I didn't actually know that because I haven't been looking for it, but I am well aware of the love that one in particular gets.
Yeah, because it was remade on the PS1. Not necessarily remade, but, well, it was kind of remade. It was remastered. It was on a disc with that and Final Fantasy V, I believe. So, yeah, you should check it out.
I always screw this up. Who was the big villain from that one? Was that Kefka, or was that...
Yeah. Kefka, which is also was in one of our top 5s as the greatest villains in any video game. And we pick him...
From what I've heard, I get the feeling many people would agree with that.
Right, and we also had... another character from that game in another top 5, which was the top 5 underrated heroes, and it was General Leo, who Kefka kills. But it's the game. I mean, dude, we can do an hour-long episode of me just telling you how amazing that game is. I mean, to be honest.
I'll trust your judgment. I think I'm going to have to get some PSN points.
Yeah, you should check it out. Actually, they don't even do the points anymore. You can just buy it outright.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know why I said points.
Well, it used to...
I was hoping you wouldn't pick me up on it.
The only reason I picked you up on it is because I recently found out myself that they don't do the wallet anymore. You can just go to confirm purchase and buy it, which is cool. Don't worry, we're probably going to leave that out because I don't want to sit here and, you know, advertise for them. But.
Oh, what are you talking about? We VirtualBromance and Digital Psychosis have been paid off by Sony.
Right?
Isn't it obvious?
And that also goes back to my love-hate relationship with Square Enix. When it was Squaresoft, I could, you know, say no bad things about it ever. And when they merged into Square Enix, I kind of started to lose interest in it.
Weirdly enough, I'd agree with you, but the part that doesn't make sense to me, even hearing myself say that, is prior to the merger, not just Square, but I loved Enix's games as well, like Illusion of Gaia.
Oh man, Illusion of Gaia is so good. So good. I forgot about that game. Such a fucking
no, I'm
badass
forgetting
game.
another one, but they were both great companies on their own. It just seemed the minute that they pulled their shit together, everything went haywire.
Yeah, and if I remember correctly, they did that because Squaresoft made The Spirits Within and tanked on it. Do you remember if that's true or not? Because I know that there were rumors about that. How you know, Squaresoft made that Final Fantasy movie, The Spirits Within.
You could be right. In my head, I seem to recall the merger happening way earlier than that, but I could be talking out of my ass.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, and I really don't remember. And you know, I kind of like that game.
Oh,
but anyway,
what is up? Kill Jam.
We're gonna go ahead.
I did not deserve that.
Oh, you got it. Sweet. All right, we're gonna go ahead and end this here. This is the Restless Corpse and Steven Pastic, and this is day 8 of the 365 games, and we'll see you tomorrow.